Imagine our Earth, a beautiful blue sphere spinning in the vastness of space. Zoom in and you'll see the continents. Among them, one stands out for its sheer scale. Asia. It is the largest continent on our planet. A place of incredible diversity, stretching from frozen Arctic wastes to steamy tropical jungles. Its story is written in its mountains, its rivers, its deserts, and its oceans. Understanding Asia is understanding a huge piece of our world's intricate puzzle, a grand stage for weather and life. Asia's surface is a dramatic tapestry woven with colossal features. Mighty mountain ranges like the Himalayas scrape the sky, their peaks capped with eternal snow. Great rivers such as the Yangtze, the Ganges, and the Mekong carve their way through the land, nurturing civilizations. These rivers are the continent's arteries, carrying water, sediment, and life. Vast oceans embrace its shores, the icy Arctic to the north, the expansive Pacific to the east, and the warm Indian Ocean to the south. Each feature plays a role in shaping the continent's character. This immense geographical spread naturally gives rise to an astonishing array of climates. Think about it. A landmass that stretches from near the North Pole almost to the equator. It spans from the dry, sun-baked deserts of the Middle East to the rain-drenched islands of Southeast Asia. No single description can capture Asia's climate. It is a continent of extremes, a place where you can find nearly every type of weather our planet has to offer. This diversity is key to its rich ecosystems and cultures. So, let us embark on a journey. A climate odyssey across this incredible continent. We will explore its diverse weather patterns from the frigid north to the balmy south, from the parched west to the humid east. We will look at how the sun's light dances across its lands through the seasons. And we will confront the profound changes that a warming planet is bringing to Asia. What secrets do its skies hold? What challenges does its future entail? Let's find out. Our journey begins in the far north of Asia. This is the realm of Siberia, a vast expanse within Russia. Imagine latitudes stretching from around 60 degrees north near cities like Yakutsk all the way up to 75 degrees north and beyond, deep into the Arctic Circle. Longitudinally, it's immense, covering ground from the Ural Mountains eastward to the Pacific Ocean. Here, winter is not merely a season, it's a dominant force. The climate is predominantly Arctic and subarctic, characterized by extremely cold, long winters and short, cool summers. Daylight in this northern expanse performs a dramatic annual waltz. During the deep winter, in places like Yakutsk, the sun might only grace the sky for a fleeting 3 to 4 hours each day. Further north, within the Arctic Circle, the phenomenon of polar night occurs, where the sun does not rise at all for weeks or even months. Then summer arrives and the script flips entirely. Daylight can stretch for nearly 20 hours, and in the true Arctic, the midnight sun bathes the landscape in continuous light for extended periods. This extreme variation profoundly impacts life. However, this frozen world is stirring, awakened by a warming planet. Climate change is making its presence felt dramatically here. Permafrost, the ancient, permanently frozen ground that underlies much of Siberia, is beginning to thaw. This thawing releases significant amounts of methane and carbon dioxide, greenhouse gases trapped for millennia, further accelerating global warming. Arctic sea ice is melting earlier in the spring and forming later in the autumn. Recent data indicates that Arctic temperatures are rising at more than twice the global average rate. For instance, the Siberian town of Verkhoyansk, north of the Arctic Circle, recorded a shocking 38 degrees Celsius in June 2020. These changes send ripples through the delicate ecosystems. The vast taiga or boreal forests and the treeless tundra are under stress. Animal migration patterns honed over millennia are being disrupted. Iconic Arctic species like polar bears find their icy hunting grounds diminishing. Indigenous communities, whose cultures and livelihoods are intricately woven with this environment, face unprecedented challenges to their traditional ways of life. The intricate web of life in the frozen north is being profoundly tested by these rapid transformations. We now travel south and east into the heart of East Asia. This region includes countries like China, Japan, and the Koreas. Geographically, these lands generally lie between latitudes of about 20 degrees north and 50 degrees north, For example, Beijing, China is at approximately 39.9 degrees north, 116.4 degrees east, while Tokyo, Japan sits at 35.7 degrees north, 139.7 degrees east. Here, the climate is largely temperate, meaning these areas experience 4 distinct seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. A defining feature of this region's climate is the powerful monsoon system, which brings seasonal winds and crucial rainfall, particularly in summer. Daylight in East Asia follows a more familiar seasonal rhythm for many. In cities like Beijing or Seoul, winter days are relatively short, offering around 9 to 10 hours of sunlight. This means early sunsets and longer nights. Conversely, summer days are long and bright, stretching to about 14 to 15 hours of daylight. This regular ebb and flow of sunlight has profoundly shaped agricultural practices and cultural traditions for thousands of years. Many festivals and seasonal activities are closely tied to these solar cycles, celebrating planting, harvest, and the changing light. Climate change, however, is introducing new uncertainties and intensifying existing weather patterns in East Asia. Typhoons, which are powerful tropical cyclones forming over the warm waters of the western Pacific Ocean, appear to be growing stronger and potentially more frequent in some areas, posing significant threats to coastal regions. Heat waves are becoming more common and more severe in densely populated megacities like Shanghai, Tokyo, and Seoul. Furthermore, the reliable patterns of the monsoon are becoming less predictable. Some years bring excessive rainfall, leading to devastating floods, while others bring insufficient rain, resulting in droughts that impact agriculture and water supplies. For example, parts of China experienced record-breaking heat and severe drought conditions in the summer of 2022. The consequences of these climatic shifts are felt across diverse environments. Forests face increased stress, agricultural yields become more uncertain, and bustling coastal megacities home to tens of millions grapple with the dual threats of rising sea levels and more powerful storm surges. The delicate balance of water resources, so vital for supporting enormous populations and industries, is under increasing pressure. Adapting these vast urban centers and rural landscapes to a changing climate presents a monumental challenge for the nations of East Asia. Our cosmic climate tour now takes us further south, towards the Earth's equator. Welcome to Southeast Asia, a region encompassing nations such as Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Singapore. These countries are largely situated between latitudes of approximately 10 degrees south and 20 degrees north. For instance, Jakarta, Indonesia, lies at about 6.2 degrees south, 106.8 degrees east, while Bangkok, Thailand, is at 13.75 degrees north, 100.5 degrees east. This is the realm of the tropics. The climate here is predominantly tropical rainforest or tropical monsoon, consistently warm, humid, and teeming with an incredible diversity of life. Daylight in Southeast Asia behaves quite differently compared to regions further from the equator. Here, the length of the day remains remarkably consistent throughout the year. In places like Singapore or Kuala Lumpur, there are approximately 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of darkness every day year-round. There are no long, lingering summer evenings or short, dark winter days. This constant and abundant supply of sunlight is a key factor, fueling the incredibly rich biodiversity found in the region's rainforests and marine ecosystems. Despite this seeming stability in daylight, climate change is casting a significant and growing shadow over Southeast Asia. Rising global sea levels pose an existential threat to numerous low-lying islands and extensive coastal communities, which are characteristic of this archipelago-rich region. The beautifully vibrant coral reefs, often called the rainforests of the sea, are suffering from widespread bleaching events due to increasing ocean temperatures and acidification. Rainfall patterns are also changing, with many areas experiencing more intense downpours, leading to more frequent and severe flooding, as has been witnessed in countries like Vietnam and the Philippines in recent years. The intense heat waves across Southeast Asia in 2023 also set alarming new temperature records. The lush rainforests of Southeast Asia, which are global hotspots of biodiversity, face mounting pressures. Deforestation for agriculture and development continues, while changing climatic conditions add further stress through altered rainfall and temperature regimes. Mangrove forests, which act as vital natural defenses for coastlines against storm surges and erosion, are being squeezed between rising sea levels from one side and coastal development from the other. Marine ecosystems, critical for the food security and livelihoods of millions, are under immense stress from warming waters and ocean acidification. The very fabric of these vibrant, life-filled lands is at risk. Section 5. The arid West deserts and mountain ranges. Now, our exploration takes us westward into the vast and often arid landscapes of West Asia, also known as the Middle East and parts of Central Asia. This region includes countries like Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, and the Central Asian republics. Latitudes here generally range from about 12 degrees north near the Arabian Sea up to around 40 degrees north or even higher in the mountainous northern fringes. For example, Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia, is located at approximately 24.7 degrees north, 46.7 degrees east. Vast deserts such as the Rubi' al-Khali, also known as the Empty Quarter, on the Arabian Peninsula, dominate much of this territory. Arid or desert and semi-arid or steppe climates are the norm, with some continental influences bringing colder winters to the more northern and elevated areas. Daylight in these sun-drenched lands is often intense and abundant, especially during the long summer months. In cities like Riyadh or Baghdad, summer days can feature around 13 to 14 hours of strong sunlight, accompanied by extremely high temperatures. Winter days are considerably shorter and milder, typically offering about 10 to 11 hours of daylight. The powerful sun has profoundly shaped life in this region for millennia, influencing architecture, daily routines, and traditional clothing. Ancient civilizations here developed remarkable strategies for conserving water and thriving in the face of intense solar radiation. Climate change is exacerbating the already harsh conditions prevalent in much of the West Asia. Desertification, the process by which fertile land turns into desert, is a significant and growing concern, driven by rising temperatures and changing rainfall patterns. Water scarcity, already a critical issue for many countries in the region, is becoming even more acute as glaciers in distant mountains shrink and rainfall becomes less predictable. Extreme heat events are becoming more frequent, more prolonged, and more intense. Countries like Iraq and Kuwait have repeatedly recorded summer temperatures soaring above 50 degrees Celsius or 122 degrees Fahrenheit in recent years, pushing human and environmental endurance to its limits. Furthermore, dust storms fueled by prolonged dry conditions and degraded land are becoming more common and can blanket entire cities and regions for days. The unique desert ecosystems of West Asia, while adapted to arid conditions, are being pushed to their breaking point by these accelerating changes. Oases, those vital pockets of water and greenery that support life in the desert, are shrinking as groundwater sources deplete. Traditional forms of agriculture, often reliant on ancient irrigation systems or sparse rainfall, face immense challenges in sustaining yields. The delicate ecological balance that allowed flora, fauna, and human communities to flourish in these arid and semi-arid zones for thousands of years is being severely tested. Nomadic lifestyles, historically adapted to an environment of scarce and scattered resources, are becoming increasingly difficult to maintain. Section 6. The diverse South. From Himalayas to tropical coasts. Let us now turn our attention to South Asia, a subcontinent of astounding diversity. This region is home to nations like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, and Sri Lanka. It's a land of stark contrasts, from the towering snow-capped peaks of the Himalayas in the north to the sun-drenched tropical coastlines in the south. Latitudes here stretch from the high-altitude Himalayan ranges around 27 degrees north to 35 degrees north, with Kathmandu, Nepal at 27.7 degrees north, 85.3 degrees east, down to the near-equatorial latitudes of southern India and Sri Lanka. Longitudes typically range from about 60 degrees east to 97 degrees east. Within this vast expanse, you can find an incredible variety of climates, frigid alpine conditions, fertile alluvial plains, scorching deserts like the Thar, and humid tropical zones. This significant north-south geographical spread means that daylight hours also show considerable variation across South Asia. In the mountainous Himalayan regions, such as in northern India or Nepal, winter daylight can be relatively short, lasting around 10 hours. Summer, in contrast, brings longer days with about 14 hours of sunlight. As you travel further south towards the tropical coastal areas like Chennai, India, approximately 13.08 degrees north, 80.27 degrees east, the seasonal variation in daylight becomes less pronounced, approaching the consistent 11 to 13 hours seen closer to the equator. This gradient in daylight, along with temperature and rainfall, influences everything from agricultural cycles to daily life patterns. Climate change is making its impacts deeply and widely felt across South Asia. The Himalayan glaciers, often referred to as the water towers of Asia because they feed the continent's major rivers, are melting at an alarming and accelerating rate. This threatens the long-term water security for hundreds of millions of people living downstream in the Indus, Ganges and Brahmaputra river basins. Monsoon patterns, the lifeblood of South Asian agriculture, are becoming increasingly erratic and unpredictable. Some years bring devastating floods, such as the catastrophic flooding in Pakistan during 2022, while other periods are marked by severe droughts that cripple agricultural output in India and neighboring countries. Coastal areas, particularly in low-lying Bangladesh and the Maldives, face severe risks from rising sea levels and the increased intensity of tropical cyclones forming in the Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea. The majestic Himalayan ecosystem with its unique biodiversity is exceptionally fragile and vulnerable to warming temperatures. Glacial melt not only impacts water availability but also destabilizes mountain slopes, leading to increased risks of landslides and glacial lake outburst floods. The great river systems, which are the lifelines for vast populations, face an uncertain future due to changes in meltwater and monsoon dynamics. Agriculture, the backbone of many South Asian economies and the primary source of livelihood for a significant portion of the population, is highly vulnerable to these climatic shifts. The human cost of these changes is immense, disproportionately affecting vulnerable communities who have the least capacity to adapt. Section 7. Daylight's dance, hours of sun across a continent. We've observed how daylight hours vary across Asia. But what's the cosmic reason behind this? It's all thanks to our home planet, Earth. Envision it. A magnificent sphere, not perfectly upright, but tilted on its axis by approximately 23.5 degrees relative to its orbital plane around the Sun. As Earth embarks on its year-long journey, this axial tilt means that different parts of our planet receive the Sun's rays more directly at different times. This elegant celestial mechanic is what gives us our seasons, summer, autumn, winter and spring, and dictates the changing length of our days and nights. Now picture the vast continent of Asia, positioned on this tilted, spinning globe. In the extreme northern reaches, near and within the Arctic Circle, this tilt produces dramatic effects. During the northern hemisphere's summer, when the North Pole is tilted towards the sun, regions in Arctic Asia can experience the phenomenon of the midnight sun. This is where the sun does not set for 24 hours or even longer, circling the horizon. Conversely, during winter, when the North Pole is tilted away from the sun, these same regions can endure the polar night, a period of continuous darkness that can last for weeks or months. Contrast this with regions near the equator, such as Indonesia or Malaysia. Here, the Earth's tilt has a much less pronounced effect on daylight duration. These equatorial lands experience roughly 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of darkness throughout the entire year, with very little seasonal variation. Between these polar and equatorial extremes, most of Asia experiences a more familiar seasonal rhythm in daylight hours. Days are noticeably longer during the summer months and correspondingly shorter during the winter months. The extent of this difference, how much longer summer days are compared to winter days, depends directly on a location's latitude or its distance from the equator. For example, a city like Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia, around 47.9 degrees north, will see a much greater difference in daylight hours between its longest summer day and its shortest winter day compared to a city like Manila in the Philippines, around 14.6 degrees north. This predictable and cyclical variation in sunlight has governed natural processes and human activities for millennia. It's important to understand that climate change itself doesn't directly alter Earth's axial tilt or its orbit around the Sun. Therefore, it doesn't change the fundamental astronomical calculations that determine the potential hours of daylight a place can receive. However, climate change can significantly influence our perception and experience of that daylight. For instance, altered weather patterns might lead to increased cloud cover in some regions, reducing the amount of direct sunlight that actually reaches the ground. More frequent and intense dust storms, often linked to drought and land degradation exacerbated by climate shifts or increased haze from wildfires, can significantly dim the skies. This can make days feel darker, reduce visibility, impact solar energy production, and even affect human moods and health. Section 8, Climate Change, a shifting Asian reality. Asia, a continent we've seen is defined by its staggering diversity in geography and climate, now faces a profoundly unifying and urgent challenge: global climate change. Its sheer size, its extensive coastlines, its towering mountain ranges, its vast deserts, and its populous river deltas make it particularly vulnerable to the multifaceted impacts of a warming world. From the rapidly thawing Arctic regions in the north to the low-lying tropical islands in the south, from the glaciated peaks of the Himalayas to the arid plains of Central Asia, no corner of this immense landmass remains untouched. The changes we are currently witnessing are not distant, abstract possibilities. They are tangible realities, actively reshaping landscapes, ecosystems, and human lives across the continent. Across Asia, we observe a clear and consistent trend of rising temperatures. Many Asian cities, particularly the sprawling megacities, are experiencing more frequent, longer-lasting, and more intense heat waves. The year 2023, for example, saw record-breaking high temperatures scorch large parts of South and Southeast Asia, placing immense stress on human health, agriculture, and energy systems. Precipitation patterns are also becoming increasingly erratic and extreme. Some regions are grappling with more intense rainfall events, leading to severe flooding and landslides, while other areas are enduring prolonged and more severe droughts. The once relatively predictable monsoon systems, so vital for agriculture and water security for billions of people, are becoming less reliable, creating a growing sense of anxiety and uncertainty. Ecosystems throughout Asia are struggling to adapt to these rapid and often severe environmental shifts. Mountain glaciers, critical sources of fresh water, are shrinking at an alarming pace, impacting downstream water availability for agriculture, industry, and domestic use. Vibrant coral reef ecosystems are suffering from extensive bleaching due to warmer and more acidic ocean waters, threatening marine biodiversity and the livelihoods of coastal communities dependent on them. Forests across the continent face increased risks from devastating wildfires, pest outbreaks, and drought stress. Plant and animal species are attempting to migrate to new, more suitable areas, if such areas exist and are accessible, leading to disruptions in delicate ecological balances and interactions. For instance, fish catches in some traditional fishing grounds are declining as commercially important species shift their geographical ranges in response to warming ocean waters. This ongoing transformation, though sometimes subtle, is profound and far-reaching. These widespread climatic changes are not isolated events occurring in a vacuum. They are interconnected across the continent and the globe. What happens in the high-altitude cryosphere of the Himalayas directly affects the water security of the vast river plains below. Changes in Pacific Ocean temperatures and circulation patterns influence typhoon activity and rainfall across East and Southeast Asia. Climate change is fundamentally a global phenomenon driven by human activities, and Asia, with its massive population, its rapidly developing economies, and its globally significant ecosystems, finds itself at the very forefront of this unfolding planetary story. Understanding these complex and interconnected shifts is not merely an academic pursuit, it is an essential prerequisite for safeguarding our shared future on this dynamic planet. Section 9, Our Future in Asia, Understanding and Adapting. Our journey across the vast expanse of Asia has revealed a continent of breathtaking climatic diversity. We have journeyed from the profound chill of Siberia to the enveloping warmth of the Indonesian archipelago. We have traversed from the sun-scorched deserts of the Arabian Peninsula to the life-giving monsoon rains of the Indian subcontinent. Yet, intricately woven through this rich tapestry of climates is the undeniable and pervasive thread of global climate change. This powerful force is actively reshaping weather patterns. subtly altering our experience of daylight and posing profound challenges to ecosystems and societies, from the northernmost tundra to the southernmost islands, from the westernmost steppes to the easternmost coasts. To navigate this complex and rapidly evolving new reality, human understanding, guided by scientific inquiry, stands as our most potent and indispensable tool. The rigorous methods of science's observation, measurement, analysis, and prediction are absolutely essential for comprehending the changes underway. Satellites orbit above, diligently monitoring Earth's systems. Networks of ground stations collect vital climate data, and sophisticated climate models run on powerful supercomputers help us to peer into potential futures. We must continue to robustly support and relentlessly expand this global scientific endeavor. Knowing precisely what is changing, how rapidly these changes are occurring, and the underlying causes empowers us to make informed, evidence-based decisions for this continent, home to more than half of humanity. However, understanding, while crucial, is not sufficient on its own. It must be translated into effective action. Adaptation strategies are urgently required to help communities and ecosystems cope with the climatic changes that are already unavoidable. This means investing in resilient infrastructure capable of withstanding extreme weather, developing drought-resistant crops and sustainable agricultural practices, protecting and restoring coastal ecosystems like mangroves and coral reefs, and implementing wiser, more equitable water resource management systems. Simultaneously, mitigation efforts dramatically reducing global greenhouse gas emissions are equally vital to prevent the most catastrophic and irreversible impacts of climate change. Asia, as a major global economic and industrial powerhouse, has a critically important and influential role to play in leading the worldwide transition to cleaner, more sustainable energy sources and a low-carbon future. The future of Asia, in the face of these profound climatic shifts, is a narrative that is still being written day by day by the choices we make. The challenges are undeniably immense, the scale almost overwhelming, but so too is the boundless potential for human ingenuity, for societal resilience, and for international cooperation. By wholeheartedly embracing scientific knowledge, by fostering a culture of innovation, and by working collaboratively across national borders and diverse cultures, the nations and peoples of Asia can strive to build a more sustainable, equitable, and secure future for themselves and for the precious, diverse environments that sustain them. The cosmos, in its silent grandeur, watches and waits for the outcome of our efforts.